Pam Dalton-Arlotti. I'm the Director of Performance and Compliance at Neighborhood Legal Services. I'm an attorney going on in excess of 30 years. Have not been with Neighborhood Legal Services for 30 years, but I have been with a legal aid organization somewhere for 30 years. So the services that, and I don't know how many of you are familiar with what we do, I hope you are. We've been here for almost going on 50 years. We'll be doing our 50th anniversary next year. We operate in Beaver, Butler, Lawrence, and Allegheny County. And last year we served probably close to 19 to 20,000 people, got services from our organization. Opened and closed about 8,000 cases last year. And most of our clients have to meet income guidelines. 125% of poverty are the guidelines that most people have to meet. There are exceptions for those who are victims of domestic violence or trafficking. We will represent those individuals regardless of their income. We also have a small grant to represent individuals in mortgage foreclosure cases up to 187.5% of poverty. And we also go out to various senior centers in Allegheny County where we provide services to the seniors regardless of income. Now, we have 20 lawyers, 16 of them are full-time, and that's their focus, is providing representation or advice. The other lawyers are part-time advocates, part-time managers. So as you can expect, with that many lawyers and 4 counties and the number of people who qualify for our services, we have to set priorities. And we do that every 3 or 4 years, but we're also willing to adjust our services when we need to. So when this opportunity with Strong Vet came about, we already are representing some vets coming in the door, but we don't have any specific funding that is geared towards representing veterans. And it's our hope that with Operation Strong Vet and the money that's raised through their fundraising capacity, that we'll be able to get enough funds to be able to dedicate some staff solely to veterans-related issues. So what do we do for clients? Depends upon the nature of the case that's coming in the door. So I often describe Neighborhood Legal Services as the emergency room of the legal world. Okay? So if it's something that's going to affect life, safety, health, we're probably going to give you a lawyer to help defend whatever that issue is. If it's something that's not in the nature of an emergency, you're probably going to get advice, or you may get a reduced fee referral to some private attorneys who agree to take some cases from us at a reduced rate. So we've got really about 3 to 4 categories of cases that we handle. One's family law, which is about 40% of what we do is family law. And as you can well expect, that could eat up every one of our attorneys' time if we were going to give everyone a lawyer. So what we do is provide people with a lawyer if they have a child and the child is being snatched, or if they have a child and the opposing side, someone is suing them to take the child. We want to maintain that family unit. That's our goal. And so we will provide an attorney to anyone in that situation. Every other kind of family law issue, contempts, they just want to file to get the confirmation of custody, they want to modify a custody order, they want to move out of town so they have to get permission from the court. Those kinds of cases are only going to get advice, and they may get a reduced fee referral. In Beaver, Butler, and Lawrence County, because of funding cuts, we don't even give them advice. They just get the reduced fee referral. But Allegheny County is fortunate enough to have some private attorneys from the Allegheny County Bar Association Family Law Section who have offered to provide that advice at no charge to us or the clients, and therefore they all get to talk to someone. We've also got some arrangements with both of the law schools have law students, and they provide advice to our clients under the supervision of a law professor, obviously. So we've got some resources here that provide people with advice for those issues. Support in divorce cases, all we have to offer people is a reduced fee referral. It comes from us. We've got attorneys who are signed up to take those cases at those reduced rates, but they have to come through us first. So they call, and you get a call about divorce or support. Then if they qualify for our services, they'll get that reduced fee referral. The other area that we provide a lot of help with is landlord-tenant and mortgage foreclosures. So in the landlord-tenant realm, we focus primarily on evictions. So if someone's being evicted, normally if it's from subsidized, public, or Section 8 housing, we will give you a lawyer to look. You will get to talk to an attorney as long as your case has merit. The attorneys will represent you in your efforts to maintain that housing because of the importance of that subsidy. Otherwise, if you don't have that subsidy, you're going to end up in market rent, which most people cannot afford the market rent. So then the other aspect of that is the private landlord-tenant cases, where we just obviously don't have enough staff to defend everyone who's being evicted from private housing. If they're being locked out, you know, the landlord didn't follow the proper procedure. If they're being locked out, utilities are being shut off that shouldn't be shut off. That's called a constructive eviction process. We will also let you talk to a lawyer. And we may end up going to court to force the landlord to let you back in or to get those utilities or the water turned back on. Most people who are being evicted from public housing, the reason is they can't pay the rent. For whatever reason, they've lost a job, they've gotten behind, whatever the reason, there's not much of a defense to not being able to pay your rent. You're going to get evicted. So in those cases, primarily what these folks are going to get is some advice. We've got 2 attorneys who devote their time to providing a lot of landlord-tenant advice in private housing cases to tell people how long they've got to vacate the property and whether the landlord did it properly and what their rights are and how they can appeal it if they want to appeal it and those kinds of things. So that's the private housing. Mortgage foreclosures, as I mentioned, we have a special grant for that. We can go a little higher on the income guidelines. So anyone who's facing a mortgage foreclosure who's gotten a notice, have them call us because we can provide some representation with respect to defending those cases. It may include doing a bankruptcy, a Chapter 13 or a Chapter 7 bank. Chapter 7 won't do the mortgage foreclosure any good, but we'll do a Chapter 13, which is a reorganization of the debt so that we can hopefully maintain that property.
So they have to have the notice for foreclosure.
They should have a notice of foreclosure. Yes, okay. Yes. Something from the creditor or the lender indicating that they are behind on their rent and they need to get caught up, or they're going to file a complaint for foreclosure. Tax sales. People get behind on their taxes. The residence is going to be sold because of the taxes. We'll represent people in their efforts to catch up on those taxes. Again, that may mean a Chapter 13 bankruptcy, or it may mean negotiating with the taxing authority to try and get a payment plan. So we'll provide an attorney for that. If someone's utilities are being terminated, we will provide an attorney. Usually, again, we're talking about a Chapter 7 bankruptcy in that case to eliminate that old debt so they can start over again. We do a lot of bankruptcies. Bankruptcies are the last resort for people. We don't do bankruptcies just because people want to get out of their credit card debt. We don't have enough attorneys, and those are very time-intensive cases. We do them when we need to preserve something, utilities, a home, public benefits, whatever that is. But we do have a debt advice coming. So if people have those other issues and they just want to talk to a lawyer about how do I stop all those phone calls from those creditors, we've got a clinic once a month in the Pittsburgh office where people can come in and talk to a lawyer for free and get some advice on how to take care of that. The other thing I wanted to bring to your attention is we also have a website, our website, www.nlsa.us, A lot of information on it. Plus, there's another website which Neighborhood got a grant and collaborated with the Pennsylvania Legal Aid Network and the Legal Services Corporation to create. It's called www.palawhelp.org. It's fabulous. There's tons of information on there about every kind of legal area that you could possibly think of, including areas that we don't handle, such as immigration. And so go there, send your neighbors, you go there. There's a lot of information on there. Links to other legal services programs, links to bar associations, just a massive amount of information that really people need to start taking advantage of. The other area that we handle is in the realm of what we call economic stability. So we do a lot of public benefit work, food stamps, Medicaid, TANF, child care issues through CCIS. So we also handle supplemental security income cases. We'll provide an attorney there. We do anything that's related to efforts to maintain wages or get wages. So if someone has a wage claim, your employer has withheld your wages, we'll provide you with an attorney to get those wages taken care of. We give a lot of advice on employee at will issues. So people get fired and they want to know, well, could they fire me? We'll provide advice on whether you were entitled, or what your rights are. Maybe you have a union, maybe you don't, maybe it's a Family Medical Leave Act issue. We'll give a lot of advice on employment-related issues. We also do unemployment compensation cases. We provide attorneys to represent people in that realm. And we also do expungements. I don't know if folks know what those are, but if you are picked up and charged with 10 different things, but you only get convicted of one of them, those other 9 things sit on your record. And people are making, employers are looking at those records and when they're doing job searches or background checks for people. And those items on your record could possibly keep you from getting employed. So our role is to try and increase employability and eliminate those barriers to employment by eliminating those charges. Those are not convictions, they're just charges that never went anywhere. So we will eliminate those charges from people's records. The ones where people were convicted, those are subject to pardons, which is a harder thing to get. You have to go to Harrisburg to have your hearing. We don't travel to Harrisburg, but we will give people advice on how best, whether it looks like they should be eligible for one, whether they should apply for one, and what they can put into their petition to help hopefully convince the panel that they should be eligible and be granted a pardon. And for debt collection issues, we give a lot of advice on that. We don't do a whole lot of litigation with respect to debt collection issues. So, as you can see, we've probably covered just about every area you can imagine for legal services. We fortunately have a lot of help from people. The private bar in Allegheny County helps us. There are a lot of little clinics that we've helped the Bar Association put in place. And some people who are over our guidelines, we can direct them to those private resources. There are some clinics in the area. The Pittsburgh Pro Bono Partnership has an expungement clinic. There's a custody conciliation project. There's a divorce law project. There's all kinds of resources, legal related, that we've got access to, and our intake workers are trained to direct people to those resources. And now, of course, we've got Operation Strong Vet, where we now have some other resources that, particularly if you're a vet, we can send folks to the City Mission in Washington. We can send people to Project Elevate. We can send people to Mercy for their behavioral health issues. We can use Operation Checkpoint to try and connect vets with those resources. So we're trying to be as holistic as we possibly can for vets and for everybody else in Allegheny Beaver County. Any questions?
So do you provide services to a lot of vets now?
Without even doing any advertising, we do ask everyone who calls whether they are a veteran or there's a veteran in the household. We did about 266 last fiscal year. Before that, it was like 300 and some. We ended up having to close our Butler County office. We still operate in Butler County, but we had to close our office up there. So that's a reduction. And we also eliminated some of the family law cases, which is also where we get a lot of the calls.
Okay.
So that's where the reduction was. So yes, we have veterans that will represent. Any other questions? The only other real limitation, two limitations on what we do: no criminal cases, and one has to be a documented immigrant. We cannot represent anyone who's undocumented. We can provide some, when we go out, we also do some educational events, so people want us to come to their programs and talk about a particular area of the law. We don't care who you are. You can be documented, undocumented. As long as it's not an actual representation issue, then we don't care about immigration status. But if we need advice, then we have to be documented.
You said you closed your office in Butler County. Then, if someone is referred to you from that area, then where are they sent?
Well, most of our calls are done by the phone. We've got a toll-free number, so we will talk to the client on the phone first initially. If the attorney needs to meet with them, we've got some space at the courthouse that we can meet with the client. But there's no physical office for a person to access services in Butler. They'll need to call, or they'll need to go to, most of them probably go to our Lawrence County office, which is probably about 35 minutes out of Butler, the middle of Butler. And some can get down here, Cranberry's Butler County, so they can shoot down 279 and get down to Pittsburgh. But most of our initial contact with people comes through phone. We call people back. You know, our phones are very busy, as you might expect. So if people don't want to hold on the lines, the lines are open from 9 o'clock to noon and from 1 to 2:30 for phone calls. People could walk into the Pittsburgh office until 3 o'clock. But people are given the opportunity to leave a message, and we call people back between 2:30 and 5 o'clock. Any other questions? What about utilities? Utility shut-offs, yes. We'll do a bankruptcy if that's the only way to get the utilities back on. We also help people if they're denied their LIHEAP benefits. They've applied for LIHEAP, they've been denied. We'll talk to them and see if there's any way that we can challenge that denial. One thing we don't provide, which a lot of folks seem to believe we do, is money. We don't give people money. We'll give you a lawyer. Hopefully we can connect you with another organization that does provide this kind of services.
And you'd help somebody fight for disability?
We would.
Any other questions?
Not much we don't do.
Okay. Any other questions? Uh-oh.